Okay, I think we're ready. Can everybody see my screen with the agenda?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so we're ready whenever you're ready, Mr. Chair.
Okay. If you would do, this is Chris Gann's chair. Would you do a call to the order, roll call, Maria?
Mr. Gans,
Present.
Mr. Baker,
Present.
Mr. Barrett,
Present.
Mr. Burr,
Present, sorry.
Mr. Tom,
Present.
Ms. Schambach. She told me she might not be able to make it here today. Mr. Viner.
Hey, Bill, you're muted.
Are you with us, Bill?
Yeah, I see him.
It's at the
Trying
very
to
top
figure out
right.
the mute.
I'm
Oh,
here
there you-
now.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great.
We have quorum, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Item 2 is review and approval legal action report for the July 15th, 2022 meeting. We all got that information via online. Are there any comments on that?
Motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Who seconded?
John did a motion to approve, and I'm not sure who seconded.
Bill Viner did.
Bill Viner,
Okay.
thank you. Okay,
Thank you.
Maria, approve as presented.
Thank you.
okay. Next on the agenda is actually now today's agenda. It's call the audience. I don't think we have any audience to call in. Since we don't have anybody, I'm going to go to item 4, which is case number SD-0723-00081 West Point 2 Apartments. And related activity number is TP-PRE-1122-00032, 20 East Ochoa Street, parcel number 117130410. Associated activity numbers are TD-DEV-0523-00257 and TC-COM-0923-02239. This is a C3 zoning, infill and center district, downtown core subdistrict. We're ready for preliminary staff remarks.
Mr. Chair, members of the IID, DRC, this is the redevelopment of an existing parking lot in downtown. And, you know, it's being proposed to be redeveloped for a multifamily development. This is a low-income, elderly multifamily development. It's going to be 7 floors high. It will include 85 units. Each unit will be a 1-bedroom unit. And it includes the leasing office on the ground floor with some space for the tenants. And also it will include some accessible units at the ground floor area. So this is inside the IID boundaries. The project was reviewed already by the design professional and the PRS. They both are recommending approval to the PDST director, and as part of their application, the project is requesting you know, the reduction of the required setbacks, the reduction of the parking spaces. They have come into an agreement with Park Tucson to provide the parking spaces. I believe it's 23 parking spaces. The applicant is seeking more through Park Tucson. But I've let the applicant explain that part. They also are requesting breaks on the required landscaping and screening, the density, and also the collection of trash. The Department of Environmental Services has okayed the overall design proposed for trash collection. There's some minor details that the applicant is going to complete through the development package review process. That's all I have, Mr. Chair. If there's any questions for me, and we have the applicant here for a presentation.
Any questions for Maria?
Just a quickie, way back when they used to have to go through Rio Nuevo, if it was in the Rio Nuevo also, I assume we're streamlining the process and it's just taken care of here?
Yes, Mr. Burr, Mr. Chair, members of the IID, DRC, yes, because the project is located within the Rio Nuevo area boundaries, the RNA. It does require to be in compliance with the RNA as well. The difference is that they don't need to go through the design review board for review. It's just through the IID DRC and the PRS when applicable, which is the case here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Maria? Okay, well, item B then, project presentation by applicant.
Feel free to share your screen, Vance.
Hey, Vance.
You're muted.
No, can you guys hear me? This is Jason Heisey.
We can hear you, Jason, and we can
Great.
see Vance, but we cannot hear him.
Great. I'm gonna, if it's okay with you guys, I'm going to introduce the project and then I'll let Vance tie up the technical
Okay.
issues. And if there are any other questions for me, I will stay on the line. If that's okay.
Yes.
Great. My name is Jason Heisey, and I'm the project manager for La Frontera, Arizona, who is the developer of the project. The project is an 85-unit elderly project, 55 years and older. It was awarded low-income housing tax credits this year through the competitive round in April. The project will consist of 85 one-bedrooms. Again, for elderly, there are services throughout the ground floor. This is a phase 2 of our phase 1 project, which was West Point 1, which is right across the street at 20 East Broadway, which was 50 units. Similar project, very similar design. La Frontera, Arizona has really ventured into the elderly space, the affordable elderly space. We just completed our Gateway project up on Oracle and Drockman as well, 120 units. One of the reasons that we continue to develop affordable elderly is there is a tremendous demand for it. We really can't build the units fast enough to meet the demand. And we're really excited about this project next door simply because we own, obviously, the project across the street on Jackson, which is full, which has just a great environment and a great culture. And we just have a tremendous amount of people who desire these affordable units. So I'll let Vance get into the technical side. If you guys have any other questions about me concerning the development, I'll jump back in.
Okay.
All right. Can you guys hear me now?
Yep.
All right, great. So we had gone through the neighborhood meeting a couple months ago, and one of the main concerns was parking, especially from the adjacent Udall building. So what we did is, Maria mentioned this, that we're entering an agreement with Parkwise to provide 43 spaces, which is 50% of the existing the tenants proposed. Currently at our West Point 1 phase 1 project, there's only 12 tenants consistently having vehicles, which is a 24% ratio. But since there was a concern by the nearby neighbor, we thought it would be wise to enter an agreement with the 50% that was kind of agreed upon at the last phase 1. So touched on what Maria was talking about earlier. This project, it was kind of born out of its surroundings. So we have contributing structures, historic structures directly east and west of this building. So that's why we set back our proposed building on those sides. And we also created visual and physical step backs down to those historic structures. So it kind of broke up the scale of the building since it was relatively close to the adjacent structures. We did that with color as well with pop outs. The north and south of this building has a contributing structure, which is our La Frontera also owns that. That is 86 feet tall. So we were able to push the building to the near street levels on both north and south side. We also have the new hotel that went in on the south side of it. So that's why we were able to push it further south as well. Most of the colors, the ephes, the brick, the weathered brick is kind of a staple around Tucson, especially in the historic downtown. Buildings like the Chase Building, even right next door to 44 East Broadway. So we layered our entire first and partial of the second floor with that same kind of weathered brick look. All the upper floors have an ephes finish, and the colors were actually also gathered from a bunch of buildings that were downtown so that we could kind of fit in with everything. Pulling back the setbacks on the east and west side, it gave us an opportunity to have a connection between Jackson and Ochoa Street. So before, where there was no connection between the two streets, is now a public open walkway for pedestrians. That also helped with the IID open space requirement that we got through that. Let's see, there's also the there's some adjacent dwelling units that are at 101 South Stone, and as well as on the Udall building across the street with some office windows. And there was also concern brought up about some privacy issues between our new buildings and new balconies on each side. So all of the areas, and you can see, can you guys see my screen share?
Yes.
Okay. So there are some areas that we actually created right here. You can see that it's a section diagram showing that the balconies that can have direct viewing access into the adjacent multifamily windows, we created some decorative visual screens that mitigated any visuals and also added a level of privacy for these people. So that was another thing we considered when making this design. But besides that, we think it's going to be a great addition to the downtown, and especially, you know, we have the precedent right next door with the phase one of this project, and we think it's going to be a great part of downtown. And I'm open to any comments, questions, concerns.
Okay, let's open it up for any questions.
This is Bill. Just to follow up on the screening on the balconies, what are you
Yeah.
using on the balconies to screen those? Are you using perf metal? What are you using?
Yeah, it's a perforated metal. It's we're proposing the McNichols, and it's got a relatively small opening so that it blocks a lot of the visuals and adds a lot of layers of privacy to it.
And just to follow up on that, I'm just curious, at West Point, are there CC&Rs that restrict what people can place on their outdoor balconies?
I'm not sure. Jason, do you know if there's anything about that? I don't believe so.
I don't, no, there isn't any restrictions, but all of our units are inspected monthly. And if we have anything that's distracting on the exterior of any of our buildings, especially our high-rise buildings, we notice the tenants.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, questions for Vance?
Yeah, I've got a couple. I assume the 43 parking spaces that you're asking for also includes provisions for any staff that will be at the building?
That is correct.
Okay. And what constitutes affordable housing now? What are the proposed rents?
I have that. The rents are 40 and 50 and 60% of AMI. So graduating from 40 to 60 would be 40%. A tenant would pay 609, including utilities. 50% would pay 761, and a 60% would pay 914. There's a utility allowance that's netted from those values.
I know that the Historic Commission passed it. I guess I have a question. There was if you click on the 20 Ochoa, East Ochoa link, it says historical information, but there's nothing attached to it. This site was cleared in late 1948, 1949 of 5 lots, and there were 7 buildings. There were 4 Victorian houses and 3 adobes that probably span the period of like about 1885 to 1905 when they were built. I was just wondering, has any archaeological excavation been done, or does the clearing of the lot, it was so long ago, does that preclude any monitoring or requirement for archaeological staff to be on site in case you uncover trash mittens or foundations or any of that sort of stuff?
I can answer that. We have conducted, obviously, phase 1 studies that show no RECs, but the City of Tucson staff has asked for us to provide an archaeological consultant during construction. I believe it would be for that purpose. That I haven't got the full detail from Rolanda yet, but that is being discussed.
And Mr. Chair, members of the DRC, we have with us Jody Brown, our Historic Preservation Officer. Jody, is there anything you would like to add to that question?
Yeah, so it's thanks. We have a programmatic agreement with the State Historic Preservation Office, and anytime there is federal funds or a federal process involved, it's common protocol for us to have a Class 3 survey, which is a record search and an on-the-ground, even though this is highly developed already, on-the-ground survey of the property. And they produce a report. From that report, they make recommendations such as the monitor that would be on site. So it is standard protocol for us to do that, and it is being covered.
Great, thanks. I just wondered because nobody asked. And then just a personal plug, I like the brown brick better than the grayer brick. And we always encourage people to not do exposed CMU block since it is in the Armory Park Historic National Register District, but I understand why you're using it at this site. Is that going to be brown and textured? It's kind of hard to tell. Some of the images show it as kind of an olive green.
Yeah, no, it's I show it as a treated, stained, stacked block CMU. But if there are some requirements from the historic zone, we can easily change that brick to a textured brown to match the other brick.
There's no requirements. It's not in the HPZ. It's just in the National Register District, but it's general policy not to have exposed concrete in the district, generally.
Okay.
Because our period of significance ends in 1945, and concrete blocks weren't generally used in Tucson. But you know, it's a personal preference. It's not a requirement. I wouldn't possibly include it, but no. I didn't make it to the neighborhood meeting, but I went to plans review and I've seen it, and generally I think looks good. So
Well, thank you. I'll consider the brick and I'll talk with the owner about it.
Okay, thanks.
Can you guys go through the streetscape and what you're proposing to do along the frontage area when we dive into that?
Yes. We have, so the DP is under review right now. It's had some comments already generated and addressed. But you can kind of see here that there's going to be a bunch of planters here with landscaping in it. There's going to be landscaping all along this interior border. There's going to be 3 large planters that have trees inside them, as well as planters throughout the site to kind of meet, you know, the intent of the landscape requirements. You want to add
Vance,
anything?
I'll jump here. Yeah, I'll jump in on the one of our requirements through the funding process, the qualified allocation plan for the Arizona Department of Housing, is to provide certain amenities. One of the amenities that we're providing is a walking path on that western edge. And then we also have a number of benches that we're also providing for people to sit, obviously, in the cooler months. And then I believe, Vance, we still retained the standing gardens on the east side.
Correct. Yeah, we're going to have a number of planters for raised gardens for kind of a service for the elderly.
Yeah, so we're trying to mix in as much as we can with the limited space that we have.
I have a couple of, this is Bill. Just a couple of follow-up questions from what John was talking about relative to parking. Did your phase 1 have any parking?
No, phase 1 bill did not have any parking. We actually had an agreement with Parkwise to secure 25 parking spaces. It was a 50-unit deal. Currently, right now, we just did an ask of our property management of how many tenants actually utilize parking, actually have cars of any kind, and that's 12 out of the 50 tenants actually have vehicles, and most of them use the parking garage across the street at La Placita.
And is the agreement with Parkwise, Jason, is that in perpetuity? How does that work?
Yeah, it runs throughout the funding, throughout the funding cycle, which is 30 years, Bill. So yeah, we have a copy of the agreement. I think Joe Tarver just drafted the new agreement based on the old agreement, and we actually have that in our possession. I think Vance could forward that to you guys.
Yeah, we're actually running it down to Parkwise this week for signature.
And Bill, when we did the phase 1, this was actually a recommendation that was given to us by the IID last time. And so we just mirrored it from the past recommendation, not being presumptuous in any way. We just took the number of units, which is 85, divided it by 2, and it does not include the staff. The staff rents their own spaces out of operations. These 43 spaces that we set aside are for tenants only.
Okay, thank you.
I have one question, Vance.
Yes.
It said it was a 30-year timeline on financing. Does that mean it's going to remain income for 30 years? Can it extend beyond that?
Yeah, I think Jason could attest to that you can renew it.
The low-income housing tax credit program has a 15-year compliance period, and then there's an extended use period which doubles. It's tied to your funding, so we are locked in for 30 years to be affordable. But that project can be re-syndicated at year 15, which would add on another 30 years, or at the end of the 30-year process, it can be re-syndicated at that time as well. Most housing authorities provide incentives for properties to remain affordable. The Department of Housing has a lot of incentives in place right now for 15-year and 30-year projects. Can't predict the future. Probably not going to be around in 30, but yeah, this could remain affordable in perpetuity.
Good. It's needed. Thank you. Any other
Mr.
questions?
Gans, yeah, Mr. Baker has his hand up.
Okay. Oh, there we go. I see now.
Hi. Which Park Tucson parking garage is that a agreement at? And then also, how does maybe this is a question for Maria or the staff, how does the city kind of enforce that agreement to make sure that you know, the tenants have parking space?
I can take the first part of that question. The Parkwise provides to us a number of garages that we can use. We just simply cut and pasted those garages into this current agreement. If they have a revision of any kind, they want us to include other garages, we can certainly include those as well.
Right, yeah, that's what they typically do, and they'll probably update the fees as these were from a couple of years ago when we did phase one. But these are the list of the 4 that we have right now. And these were the same ones that they presented to us on West Point phase one.
One quickie, you clarified that staff have separate agreements with Park Tucson, independent of, these are dedicated spaces for tenants. Is it a requirement that your staff has parking, or are they allowed to park on the street if they don't enter their own contracts?
I believe that our staff next door, we have staff next door at both properties. It's 101 South Stone and 10 East and 20 East Broadway. Stone Corner Real Estate rents parking spaces at La Placita Garage as part of operations. So it's really according to their staffing and who works at the buildings and who's there for 8 hours, who's there for 4 hours. I don't have all that information, but I do know that Stone Corner rents the spaces out of their own budget. It's not part of the tenants space allocation.
Okay, but just to appease the neighborhoods and concerned people, you anticipate that parking will be covered?
Absolutely. Yeah. We have it as part of our operations budget for staff parking. Yes.
Oh, great. Thanks. Just wanted that on the record. And just for the record, I understand that ground monitoring for the adjacent historic structures is included in this proposal. Yes, Maria?
That is correct, yes. Oh, sorry.
Okay. Look, either. Okay, good luck with it.
Thanks.
And Mr. Burr, members of the IID, they are trying to answer the question of enforcement of the parking agreement. That would be Park Tucson enforcing that. I haven't seen the final agreement, but I believe that's parking spots is first come, first served basis. And I know Park Tucson has inventories of the usage of the different parking garages. So they're the ones administering them, and they would be the ones enforcing that parking spaces are indeed being provided for, these and others that have come forward.
Correct, yes.
Any more questions for the applicant?
This is Bill again. I don't have a question for the applicant, but I'm just curious moving forward in the downtown area, whether there's been a comprehensive parking study done identifying how many spaces in existing garages are currently available, how many net spaces are available. If you took out spaces that have been utilized or contributing to existing high rises, how many would be available for the general public coming to downtown? I'm just curious whether there is a study like that and whether that would be available to us moving forward with other developments.
Mr. Viner, Mr. Chair, members of the IID, DRC, yes, I understand Park Tucson engages in, parking assessments, not only within the parking garages, but also parking on the street. Right now, Park Tucson is in the Department of Transportation and Mobility is in the process of hiring a new parking administrator for Park Tucson. So once that new staff member comes in, then I can request for an updated parking survey and I don't know what technical terms they use, but in terms of the parking management of the downtown area.
Thank you. That would be very helpful. And just one other comment. I think what Jason said is very true. There is a significant need for affordable elderly housing. There is a shortage. I think this project should fill up right away and be an asset to the community. I'm just concerned long-term about the parking availability in the downtown area. So,
I think
Yeah,
kind of changed because there's been, it was getting to where most of the Parkwise garages were filled up with contracts prior to the pandemic, but with the release of most of the office space downtown and it becoming vacant, it's moving towards residential or visitor use. So I think that's an ongoing dialogue that appears to be changing yearly as a trend.
yeah, that's a good point, and maybe it's not as concerning to me as it appears. So thank you.
And Mr. Chair, we have the hand of Mr. Baker again, and also Mr. Tom.
Baker?
Yes, thank you. I wanted to comment on the Park Tucson study. They recently completed a comprehensive parking study. I think it's like 218 pages, something like that. I don't know why 218, but I have a copy of it. I can send to Marie. I'm on the Park Tucson Commission as well. That was completed, I want to say, either late last year or early this year. It mostly looks at zoning and then the business districts and the use of on-street parking. I haven't looked at that in detail to know, what the current need is, and then with development coming in. So I wanted to comment on that. And then my other comment was just to we got the same feedback from people on our board of directors at the Downtown Tucson Partnership, specifically who are in the area near Scott Avenue, south of Broadway. Just with the on-street parking concerns, the closest kind of garage in that area is going to be the La Placita garage, and then the closest Park Tucson managed, either owned or managed garage is going to be Pennington Street Garage, which is not that far, 3 blocks away. But in your agreement, it looks like the closest surface parking lot was the Toole Avenue from that list. The city state's quite a ways away. Franklin, all of those are quite a ways, and which is great because we have the streetcar, but maybe consider asking them for the Pennington Street Garage. And those are my comments on that, but thank you.
okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, see, these were ones that were listed under the last go around, phase 1, but we will ask for the Pennington garage, or if there's any other closer ones as well when we submit it.
Hey, Tom, you have your hand up.
Yes, I just have a question regarding the entry off of Jackson. And I know this is a low income housing project, and so maybe the entrance is not as critical, but could you, and this is directed towards Vance, just give us your thoughts on that, and if there's some way to enhance the entry a little bit, what that
Right.
would be.
So on the north and south entries, those are kind of going to be some secondary entries. The main entry, since we set it back and we provided the connection between the two streets, we actually made the main entrance to be in the center. So if you look at the elevations, come up here, this is the main entry here. So we have wayfinding techniques with illuminated arrows, as well as a large one above the main entry and a large canopy protruding out further than the other canopies, to kind of show that this is the main entrance and the other ones are not the main entrances. This is where the office is going to be, and this is where we want to point people towards.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for applicants?
I guess just a quickie, the overhanging canopies that are going to be over Ochoa and Jackson, are those handled through temporary revocable easement grants, or how is that done? It's a larger question because there's been a talk of trying to cover a lot of the sidewalks downtown with these sorts of things. So I wondered what the current process was.
Right. So we actually enter in an agreement with the City of Tucson Real Estate Department, and we purchase the aerial easements in those areas. So it's actually a purchase agreement.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
If there are any other questions, please bring them up, or we'll go on to design professional. Any other questions?
Nope.
Okay. Item C, design professional findings, recommendations. Faye?
Yeah, first off, I'd just like to say that the presentation and the information that you gave us has been really, really nice. It was easy to go through. And so for this particular project, we had to look at the Rio Nuevo area, the downtown IID, and the downtown core sub-district. And what I'm going to do is just lump everything together and just talk about the site and talk about the building a little bit. The zoning is good. We have no problems with that. Setback was good, and it's nice that we were able to set the building back a little bit away from the historic buildings. There is no parking, and so that allowed the project to have some nice landscaping throughout, and I think that was used wisely. The shade was not an issue. They had a canopy that surrounded most of the building, and the streetscape didn't interfere with people who just pedestrians walking by. I was a little bit confused with the entrance, but now that you clarified it, Vance, that's fine. The building itself, the scale of the elements looked pretty good. First and second floor was our main entrance, and the material that was used, the brick, was a nice choice there. There's plenty of storefront windows along Jackson, and even some that were back over by the Ochoa. I think the colors, the sort of playfulness of the project, I really think that would bring a lot of positive to the downtown area. So we decided to approve this, approve the project from a design professional standpoint.
Okay.
Great, thank you.
Any questions for Faye Tom?
Actually, not so much for Tom. It's all of the above. Thank you, Richard. That was great. Very helpful. Your written report was quite complete. We've been focusing so much on cars. Could you just go over the bicycle parking plans? Because I think most of them are short-term out in the corridors, but are you anticipating the residents who have bikes will bring them into their dwellings, or how is that?
Right. Yeah, so in each of the units, all the 85 units, we have a bike hook for a potential bicycle for each one of the tenants as a long term. And then we added above and beyond what we needed for short term on the site, just to provide extra, because again, we weren't providing that vehicle parking.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
If there are no other questions for the design professional, we're going to item D, discussion and IID DRC recommendation. Any comments? Any recommendations?
Motion to approve as presented.
Is there a second?
This is Bill, I second.
Okay. All in favor? Maria, you want a one-by-one vote? You want to just?
It's up to you, Mr. Chair. I can just, if I hear a no, then we'll pay more closer attention.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed. Thank you. Great presentation and great project.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Is it,
Amen.
I know we already voted. I was directed by our executive committee to just abstain from the vote. Is it possible to put that down? And I apologize if I don't know the proper procedure.
Mr. Baker, why would you like to abstain?
Just from the vote. From participating in the vote.
You are, as a downtown representative in the IID DRC, you are able to vote for this project.
Right. Am I able to not participate in the vote?
Yeah, I just need to understand the reason why you're abstaining.
Well, mostly our executive committee met last Thursday, and this was brought up as a topic. And mostly the concern was around the request for 0 parking spaces on the development site. So our executive committee just voted to direct the staff who represents on this IID DRC, which is myself, to just abstain from the vote.
That is fine. Mr. Chair, members of the IID DRC, then I'm just gonna count these as 5 people voting to approve the project, and with Mr. Baker abstaining from voting.
That's good. Thank you.
Fine.
Okay, next on the agenda are future agenda items, just information only.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the DRC, no specific project right now. We've seen several smaller projects coming in requesting to use the IID as a tool for redevelopment, but they didn't need to go through the DRC for review. Right now, I don't have a specific, list of projects for you to review, but I wanted to discuss with you the membership of the IID DRC. Mr. Burr alerted me that him and others memberships had already expired sometime early this year or over the summer. And I apologize, I was not even thinking about memberships. We've just been running so fast and furious with so many projects, but yes, so we drafted a memo for the city manager to consider reappointing everybody that has been participating in the IID DRC. We're just waiting for his concurrence, and I will let you know once that takes place. I also was asking Mr. Gans earlier about bylaws, because I couldn't find in my records any bylaws that the IID DRC had maybe adopted. So he's gonna go through his records, and if we can't find anything, I wanted to ask the IID DRC if that's something that you would like to see next time we meet, draft, bylaws.
Yep, we'd like to see that. That'd be good. I'll look for my information. John, you may have some as well.
Yeah, I think most of it was pretty much laid out because we were part of the working group that helped rewrite basically the current iteration of the IID. So it was pretty much laid out in policies and procedures within the code, but we can certainly adopt specific standards.
Yeah, it's like I'm not sure how the positions of chair and vice chair were assigned in the past, and how often, what would be the length of the term for a chair to be a chair and the vice chair to be a vice chair. Those kind of little details that
I think it's every time we meet on an annual basis, we're supposed to reaffirm. It may be biannual, but that was what we generally practiced way back when. Robin
Okay.
probably has the paperwork on that. I can go back and look through files, but we just really kind of reaffirmed it annually. We were often meeting 6 or 7 times a year back in the past, and so it was more regular. But we've now had a 16-month gap. So
maybe at the beginning of each year, Maria, we'll take a look at that, but maybe you can just put out to members of the IID, DRC, and about if they want to remaining on it, but also voting for chair and vice chair.
Okay.
So.
And the way I read the code, I don't see an expiration date for members. You know, they just get to be reappointed every 4 years. But I didn't see like I see, for instance, with the DRB that they can serve only up to 2 terms, right? 2 4-year terms. But if any of you decides at one point that, you no longer can or want to be part of the IID, DRC, you just need to let me know.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay. In the meanwhile, we're proposing just to be, all of you to be reappointed for a 4-year term at this point.
that's fine. I'm happy to do so.
Okay, thank you.
I wish I could say that I have a replacement for my position in the wings, but honestly, I can't at the moment. There aren't that many people that are familiar with the code.
Okay, sounds good.
Any other information, Maria?
No, that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, well, in that case, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for being here and making a great presentation and asking great questions.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Good to see you,
everybody.
Ron.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Maria, I was just at Disneyland last week. Your background, I saw it firsthand.
It's a lot of fun
Yeah.
this time of the year. I've never been this time of the year. I mean, it was fun.
Yeah, it was. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye.
So let's talk, Maria. I'll look up information
Okay, sounds good.
if I see if I find anything.
Yeah,